Hare Krishna, we just arrived in Alachua, Florida after completing the Ratha Yatra in Jacksonville Beach yesterday afternoon, and I had the good fortune of meeting Radha Damodar Prabhu, who had some association with Jayananda Prabhu many years ago, and he's going to tell us a little bit of Leela, some pastimes with Jayananda. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So we wanted to talk today about some of the pastimes of Jayananda Prabhu. We knew him very well. That he was a friend of everyone, but he was only in the movement for a little while. But he's very important to this movement because he's the only god brother that's on the Vaishnava calendar. Many of our devotees have passed away over the years, but Prabhupada told us that every year, and on May 5th, we should have a celebration, hold a big feast for Jayananda Prabhu, because he's definitely gone back to home, back to Godhead. It should be on the Vaishnava calendar, along with Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Bhadavij Bhusana, and others. Is Jayananda Thakur, and so it gives us all hope that here's our god brother, born in America, a few years in the movement. He went back to home, back to Godhead. So we'll get to that part later at the end. That Jim Kors, he was an older man when he joined in San Francisco. He used to come around the San Francisco temple when it first started, and he was a very humble person, and he was much older. It was unusual to see him in the crowd because most of the people in San Francisco that were associated with Srila Prabhupada were between the ages of 16 and 22, and he was in his 30s. So he was like everyone's big brother, and he had a degree in mechanical engineering from college, but he preferred to drive cab. He was a friendly person, knew everybody in San Francisco, and he just made a little. But one of the programs, he gave a $100 bill in the collection plate. Like most people were giving a few coins, but when Srila Prabhupada saw that $100 bill, he was very surprised. And soon he also gave Srila Prabhupada the whole donation that necessary to print the Teaching of Lord Chaitanya book, Srila Prabhupada's first book before Krishna book and before the Bhagavatams came out, etc., was Teaching of Lord Chaitanya, and he gave, I think, $75,000 to publish that book. So he wrote in there that he thanks his dear son, Jim Kors. And so I think it was around 74 or 75 that I met him. I was living in Denver. I joined in 71 in Denver. And I remember driving out. We had a whole van full of devotees, all men, in a van going across the desert towards San Francisco, California, to attend the Ratha Yatra festival. When I got there, I wanted to meet Jayananda. We'd heard so much about him. They said he's probably around back. The San Francisco temple used to be a funeral home, so they had a big bay in the back where the hearses used to be, and he would use that as a mechanical shop. And he was out on the sidewalk past that bay, and he was lying underneath the car, and there was a large crowd of both men and women all around, circling around the car, listening to him preach. He was under the car telling him that it's just the name. The whole thing is to understand the holy name is non-different from God. Chant Hare Krishna, he was telling them, and they're all nodding like that. And then after a while it was over, and he got out of the car, he started the car and says, good as new now. And they all dispersed and said they would come back, And he turned to me and he said, everyone else left, and he said, would you help me? There's a lot of prasadam left over, and I know some people that really need it. And so we went into the kitchen, which was surprisingly empty, and he got down to the biggest pots he could find, and he took all the prasadam out of the walk-in cooler. There was halava, and there was pakors and rice, and sabjis, and sweet balls and things, and he dumped them all in these two big pots, and we stirred these big pots until they were bubbling hot, mixed everything together, and then he put it into steel containers, quite a few of them, and he grabbed up a couple of 5-gallon buckets of nectar, and off we went in his rickety old step band. He had a red step band with tools in it and hanging from it, and it was very clanky and noisy to go down the street in. And off we went there to the San Francisco wharfs, the docks. And when we got there, there was a clearing space with tables already set up. And he walked over there and put the Bashadam down. And people started coming out from all the corners, hundreds of men. They looked just like the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. They had these long wool coats, even though it was summer, and some of them had hooks for hands or pegged legs. They were walking on crutches, some of them, they had eye patches and ragged clothes, and they looked like just like ghosts. And they came out there and they formed orderly lines in front of the tables, and we served all the Bashadam. We had plates and cups, and we gave them nectar, and people were telling me that Jayananda, he cares for us all bum. He said, you're a really lucky young man to be able to know Jayananda. That's what they called him, Jayananda. They called him Jayananda. And so we quickly served all the Bashadam there, and then took it back in the temple and washed everything all the time. Any spare moment, Jayananda would always chant the holy name loudly. He was always chanting Hare Krishna in Prabhupada tunes. And he was a big guy. He was bigger, an older man, maybe 40 years old at that time. But then I didn't have much association for a while until the day of the Ratha Yatra. I remember that I was just going to Mangal Arati. Mangal Arati was just about to start. Jayananda came running in, whispering to the temple president he needed some manpower at this festival site. He says, Jayananda, you can have whoever you want. He said, I'll take this half of the temple room. And so he took half the men away. We just all followed out. We didn't even take our shoes. We just jumped in his van and went to the park. And there was bums in the park decorating the cart. And he was cooking in the park big pots of halva. And he had buckets of gulab jamuns. And everybody was stapling flowers and balloons and streamers to the carts. And Jayananda, of course, had built these carts. That, as I said before, he was a mechanical engineer. So he could build these huge, 3 big carts the size of buildings, big wooden wheels and things. So for all morning long, we were working with the people that had, come out of the bushes to help Jayananda. He knew everybody, and he would go in between us, all the time, making sure everybody had lots of gulab jamuns and halva. So then we had a big Ratha Yatra festival, and after the festival, I remember it was around sunset, and I was hanging out with my temple president, and he was talking to Thomas Lokadas, another president from Chicago, and they were talking there with the sun setting and looking over the festival site, and Jayananda came up just wringing his hands in anxiety. He was wringing his hands, and he said that we had to take the cart back to the garages where it was held, because if we leave it here another night, they'll charge a day's fee. And it wasn't much. It was a very small fee, like $20, $40 or something. And Thomas Loka said, Jayananda, we've been preaching all day. It's hot. We're tired. Nobody is going to help you. And I chimed in, I will. And Thomas Loka said, well, all right, Jayananda, if you can go around, gather a crew, you two, and you can take the carts back. So we did that, and at night, after dark, we towed the empty carts back across the city streets. Empty carts. Lord Jagannath was not there, but we were pulling the carts, and Jayananda would go between the three parties, towing and pushing the carts, and all night long until Mangal Arati, and he was carrying around buckets of gulab jamuns. And he was making sure that everybody ate lots of gulab jamuns or drank gulab jamun juice. One of his favorite things. I don't know how he got these gulab jamuns, but he always had a couple buckets of gulab jamuns. And we spent all night doing like that and chanting Hare Krishna, singing. He would go between each of the 3 parties and make sure that the We were all singing Hare Krishna all night long. And I liked that so much that I told my temple president to make sure I do that next year too. Oh, perfect. Oh, hold on, you're the best.
We have a big click when an operation takes place to simulate it so that
You want some
make sure that's all safe and stuff. So.
I'm going to skip all of it today. There you go. Have it. Beautiful performance.
What is your name?
Rama Vigraha. Hare Krishna. Watermelon.
As much as you like.
Madhu. Are you going to Panihati for the festival?
Yeah.
Yes.
You take a plate.
I'm only watermelon.
She always eats less. I put so much.
Did you say there's too many carbs in there?
No, I just have to make
Estaban time no see, big boy. Nice to see you.
How are you doing?
Good. Very good.
Oh, Ramananda,
So,
thank you.
are you still doing
Borrow Gangadhar and borrow
the installation? You were doing
farm?
This little thing there.